This is the greatest chess player of all time. Magnus Carl gets roasted, son, in this game. And who by? An 11-year-old called Faustino Oro. They call him the Lionel Messi of chess. Lionel Chessy, if you will. That's a soccer reference for those not in the know. His chess is unreal, and somehow he burns the GOAT twice on the same day. Bullet chess, sure, but still insanely impressive. Wait till you see this chess. Played on chess.com. Bullet Brawl, that's online. It's fireworks. We're going to go at a pace here. D4, and Magnus plays the modern defense. One I've been learning literally myself on Lotus Chess, an incredible app for learning your openings right. You've got to get it. Here's a good example why, right? Because castles is played here, and Faustino castles the king. What if he'd gone h3 to stop bishop g4 and stop Magnus's dark squared play and pressure? Well, then you can strike with c5. Now, this is just one example of how you can still play in the opening, get your dark squared play, even if the enemy tries to shut down your plan. This is what the app shows you. Anything your enemy plays, you're ready for it through the spaced repetition. It cements the knowledge in your head, right? Brings in your own games from Lee Chess, chess.com. You connect your account completely free, and then it will show you all the best lines and the crushing lines. That's the absolute best feature I love the most, because it doesn't just show the top engine move, it shows you the move that your opponents are likely to play, even by your level of chess, so you're prepared to then crush them. You know what's coming there. It will help you patch the gaps. Give that one a go. Link down below here. Let's crack on with this game, because we didn't see h3 stopping bishop g4. We saw castles, the quick king safety fist bump exploded out, bishop g4. This is what I'm on about. You give the bishop pair here, but you get all the dark squared play. Knight c6, the center is defended, could have gone with the pawn. e5 goes for it again, so c3 holds on, and now rook e8, putting tons of pressure here. If the knight tries to cover, well, then you start taking here. So we see the pawn advance on. Now you could drop back to e7, then put the knight here as well and go for f5. But Magnus sets up the pieces for the next game in complete despair, or so it looks like. He's actually rotating around. Love how Faustino starts maneuvering as well. Explosive c4, and this is so cool. Pawn h5 from Magnus. This positional idea of king h7 and then trading the bishops after Faustino whispers, stack my bishop. Now we see this and he drops back. I mean, the positional understanding on a kid of 11 is unreal. Now Magnus gains some space. The bishop pair held on to, a4 clamps, no b4 for you, sir, but this knight starts jumping. White always has the edge in these structures, got the space, but black wants to fight back, especially on the dark squares here. The knight rotates, supports its brother, this one dropping back. It's great blitz chess or bullet chess from both players. Look at this incredible maneuvering here, big dark squared strategy, and after rook c8 covering the pawn, queen g4, you can play queen g5 and just be equal here. But Magnus hits the queen, trying to get the Botez gambit in. This one now retreats, still covering the center, and best is to actually drop back, cover this knight, but not played. Rook a8 from Magnus, it's a mistake. Faustino pounces here, not Faustino founces, not the way to say it. He plays. Bishop takes on c5. Well done if you saw the move, because now you jab right through the center, and that one is awkward. It's like watching Garry Kasparov trying to play a game of chess after a dodgy curry. Where to look? Not easy. If you try and glide on by here, well, the knight jumps. You go to Forktown, population Magnus, so he takes, the rook crashes through, and look at this, 19 points of material, barreling down that file. Everything goes into the blender, but white with the big advantage. Initiative, loose pawns. You could take immediately, but Faustino jumps. Now the rook should come to e6, but goes here. They're playing on seconds. That a pawn dropping, so Magnus decides it's time to maneuver. This is why he practices. This is why he goes to the Oslo training camps. It's for moments like this. He's headed for d4, but watch this. Faustino gets there first to the outpost, hits the rook, which slides here, but now, so astute, he plays bishop a4. No knight jump for you, sir. Now we get the rook moving, but bam, the knight's never going to land there. You could take with the rook, but pawn takes is played to kick this one out. Thankfully, it can retreat and cover this rook. And this one now centralizes. If you take, you repair the pawns. This c4 pawn's attacked, so we see b3 played. This bishop sliding in. Now the knight saves itself. Rook d7, king f1, king f6. And how about this? For use of the tactics, knight c3, using that pin, so the rook bounces back, knight b1, bishop a5, and now we get takes, repairing the pawns. Why would you do that? Why didn't Magnus take like this, by the way? Well, then these guys start running really fast, you know, something like this. So we did see e takes played, and now the best is marching in with the king already. Faustino goes f4, creating the barrier, but Magnus immediately gets rid of it, loving those dark squares. We get takes, and best is king takes. It marches in, and actually not so easy for either side to make progress. You know, black's coming in here, but then if you take immediately, white takes here. Computer gives it level, but honestly anything could happen. This wasn't played. After takes, Magnus didn't capture. He marched in like this. He wants the e pawn. He wants to support the d pawn, but there's a problem. He takes that opposition, but is then checked away. And if bishop takes, the trouble is this guy down the edge of the board way too fast. So no bishop takes, the king gives ground, now the knight bounces round, and you haven't got time to sort of wait here and cover the knight hop, or else you take here with check. White doing well, so king g3 was played, marching into munch, but now this one, we get an exchange of prisoners, but how fast is that g-pawn? Magnus goes for the desperate trick now. If you push with g7, then there's d3 check, discovery, pick up pawn, so the king blockades here, and it's all she wrote. Magnus desperately runs his own pawn, but here he resigns, because where's the king going to go? You know, say here to try and run your pawn. Well, you bring in the queen, you're about to win that pawn, completely game over. Amazing game there, control from start to finish. Let's jump to this one, because now Magnus with white. Colours reversed, Vienna game, knight f6 and g3. This Mises variation, the bishop's going to fianchetto. Now it does so, and you see the pawn structure that Magnus sets up. Super aggressive, but Faustino completely unfazed. Daniel Naroditsky loves this setup. So many training videos. Gain the space with the rook pawn, and Magnus roars like a mighty chess lion, going for the throat. He gets checked, rook e8 played, a3, knight d4, an exchange of those steeds, and this one rumbles back, hits the bishop, saves itself, and f5. Magnus sets up that beautiful connect 4, only goes and unlocks a staring contest with the one and only Garry Kasparov. He's undefeated champion at the St. Louis Chess Club. Good luck with that, Magnus. Don't blink, and look at this now, how to fight against it. Where you thrust in the centre. So thematic when you're getting attacked on the flank. Knight c3 is played. Now pawn to c-ships here. And Magnus cracks on with the absolutely epic pawn to g4. Everyone's having a great time. He's just set up a connect 6. Gary's beside himself, doesn't know what to do. We see queen d6, g5 going through the jugular, but after bishop takes, the cool and calm bishop d4, queen f3, and knight h7. Going for that bishop, and also sometimes you sit on f8 to defend the king. Obviously not when there's a pawn there really right now. But first this one drops back. Bishop d7 connects those rooks, and here Magnus makes a blunder in the seconds, in the time trouble. He plays the move of e takes on d5. Rook ae1, queen g3 was better. This is a big mistake. because wham, discovered check, about to win the queen, so she steps over here. You can't quite skewer queen to king because the bishop blocks, so instead we see takes, queen recaptures, and e3, a bone in Magnus's throat, right? Choking out that bishop, how to deal with it, and how weak are these pawns now. We get knight f6, looking at this one, takes, pawn recaptures, bishop f3, one of the better moves, but Magnus tries the randomizer, knight e2, drops an entire pawn, maybe it was just a blunder, who knows, rook a2, check is played, king h4, and now a4, clamps on this one, very nasty, like a sumo wrestler, sitting on its head, bishop g3 activates, look at those laser beams, and after rook a b8, we get captures, but it activates Faustino's rook. Another pawn dropping. King g3. c5 played. Preparing to capture here without dropping c6. Now we get rook a1. Takes was played. A change of the rooks here. And after rook e1, desperately trying to round up this pawn, it's Faustino that gets the invasion first. C pawn weak. If you try and block, there's this lovely tactic. Bishop d3. Takes, black doing amazing. Technically then you should step in with the king first, but let's crack on with the game. No rook c1, no king f4, we see knight c3 saying you take me, I take you, but now pawn e2, and somehow Faustino's just that step ahead, right? Ultimate control, 10 seconds up on the clock, that's significant in bullet. Magnus does round up this pawn here, but look at the composure here, the prowess of an 11-year-old boy. Unbelievable stuff. Magnus does round up that dangerous pawn, but Fausti gets this one. That's how he's affectionately known, by the way. Now this pawn runs, knight jumps in, forking, saved, and this is how the game proceeds here. We do get the liquidation of h-pawn for g-pawn, but still Faustino is a pawn ahead, marching in the king and squeezing Magnus on the clock, making him look like an absolute patzer. How does an 11-year-old do this to the GOAT? And this is the moment. Magnus blunders here into this final position. A few of his fans just bleating, lamenting for the death of the GOAT in this game. Takes with check, king back here, and this is how the game ended. Exchange of the rooks, the consummate professional that Faustino is, already at 11 years old, and this was the final position. Potentially, he's going to be the youngest grandmaster ever. Unreal chess from this guy. He finished in the top 10 in the end. Magnus was nowhere to be seen for some reason this tournament. Not sure if he exited early. Hope you enjoyed this one. Have a look at Lotus Chess down in the description. Truly awesome app. And check out the video on screen if you want some more epic chess. Thanks a lot for watching and see you soon. Cheers.